So we got some sad news, honestly, this past week in the NFL. With all the craziness that was going on, I wanted to make sure I took some time to talk about this. No, somebody didn't die, but I have to feel like for a lot of Browns fans, most Browns fans, if not all, a piece of them died when they heard the news that Joe Thomas, the stud left tackle for their beloved team over the past 11 seasons, has decided to call it a career. That sucks. Like, Joe Thomas was one of those universally respected players. Like, how could you hate Joe Thomas? He played 11 seasons for the skid marks. He will easily go down as the greatest player in modern Cleveland Browns history, and he might always be the greatest player in the history of the modern Cleveland Browns, everything 1999 and after. You know, I think back to Joe Thomas from his time at Wisconsin, and I think to that 2007 draft, and all the talk about Cleveland having to draft a quarterback, Cleveland having the third pick, are they going to draft a quarterback? And they select Joe Thomas from Wisconsin. And where was he on draft day, you might ask? I'll never forget it. He was out on a fishing trip with his dad. It meant so much to him that he was going to be a future multimillionaire that he wanted to celebrate, not by being at the draft in New York City, not by being at home watching it on television, understanding he knew, like a real G, that he was getting picked high, so it didn't damn matter. He's going to go fishing. Well, unfortunately now, 11 seasons later, Joe Thomas is going to have plenty of time for fishing. We think. Maybe, maybe not. But when you look at Joe Thomas, his legacy, in his first 10 seasons, he made the Pro Bowl each of those 10 seasons. He's one of 5 players in NFL history to accomplish that. Of all the great players, the legends, the Pro Bowlers, All-Pros, Hall of Famers, only 5 guys in the history of the NFL managed to be Pro Bowlers each of their first 10 seasons. That speaks to the consistency, the excellence, the greatness of a player like Joe Thomas. For him to go into the same breath as Barry Sanders, Lawrence Taylor, Mel Renfro, and Merlin freaking Olsen. That's the type of company that Joe Thomas is keeping when you say he was a Pro Bowler for each of his first 10 seasons in the National Football League. That's insane to think of. All these great players, and to be able to consistently answer the bell game after game, week after week, season after season, and play at a high enough level where people think enough of your game for you to be voted into the Pro Bowl each of the first 10 seasons of your career. That is insane. We rarely see it, and we will continue to rarely see it. And again, it speaks to Joe Thomas and his greatness. He was a 6-time first-team AP All-Pro. And when you think about it, perhaps his single greatest legacy is being an Iron Man of the NFL. What was it, over 10,300 consecutive snaps from his first game in 2017 until he suffered that torn tricep halfway through to the 2017 season? From 2007 to 2017, he made 160, 170, whatever the hell, consecutive starts. And the guy played over 10,000 consecutive snaps. So that even means with all the skid marks teams he played on, all the bad, crappy games he played in, all the times his team was getting housed, they were getting destroyed. He never begged out of a game. He never asked out of a game. He never quit on a game. He kept playing all 60 minutes no matter what. And to me, that is one of the highest compliments that you could pay any player in the National Football League, is that they consistently gave 100% effort, snap after snap, game after game, season after season, and clearly Joe Thomas did. And if you think back to when he tore the tricep in 2017, think about how sad it was when that injury happened, knowing the reality that for the first time since 2006, you're going to watch a Cleveland Browns game, for those of you that actually have enough enjoyment of misery to watch a Cleveland Browns game, and Joe Thomas is not going to be there. He's not going to be on the field. He's not going to be lined up at his usual left tackle spot. It's just really sad and tragic that that's the way that Joe Thomas ultimately went out in his NFL career. It's sad that he never got to play in a playoff game either. In 11 seasons, 0 playoff appearances, 0 playoff games. It's sad that after 11 years of pure greatness that Joe Thomas, who people in the know and understand just how great he was, get it, but a lot of other casual and mainstream football fans that don't maybe pay as much attention don't realize just how much of a pleasure Joe Thomas was to watch as a player and how great he truly was as a player. And it's sad because playing on all these crappy skid marks teams, he didn't get a bunch of Monday night games, and Thursday night games, and Sunday night games, and featured prime time, and featured early afternoon, featured late afternoon game slots. So it was a lot of word of mouth, or you caught Joe Thomas on the off chances that his game just happened to be on your regional television coverage because your local team wasn't playing, or your team was actually playing against him. That was usually all you got to see of him, and that's sad. Because you don't get to see these type of great players but for a period of time in their careers, and Joe Thomas will go down to me, even though a lot of the hardcore football people understand how great he is, I still think he will go down as one of the truly criminally underrated Hall of Famers in NFL history. And make no mistake about it, he's very similar to like an Anthony Munoz. He was great from day one until the last day of his career. He is no doubt, a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, if you remember a couple years ago when Brett Favre was up for the first time and they talked about how the whole thing lasted 6 seconds in terms of the presenting Brett Favre's case for the Hall of Fame, and basically it's summarized by saying, it was Brett Favre. Boom. It lasted 6 seconds. Joe Thomas's should last about 3 seconds. Joe Thomas, everybody vote. And if you don't vote for Joe Thomas specifically on the first ballot, you are absolutely insane and deserve to have your rights as a Hall of Fame voter permanently revoked. Now, to me, there's still a hope that Joe Thomas might get enticed to come back and play for the Cleveland Browns, because maybe as much as he wants to talk about his body can't physically handle it anymore, he's beat down and he needs to get away from it, he needs to know when. It's not when. I find it very hard to believe that if the Browns were knocking on the door of the Super Bowl, that Joe Thomas wouldn't be finding a way to trot out there for 2018. He's not right now. And again, he's earned that right, and he completely should be respected for that. And after sticking with that team for all those years, when he didn't have to, he could have bitched for a trade, he could have demanded for a trade, and based off of his greatness, he would have earned the right to ask to work for somebody else, to play meaningful football, to play in the playoffs, have a chance to play for a Super Bowl. But he didn't do that. And I respect him more for it. We have these certain connections with guys sometimes that spend their entire careers with one team. It's like the ideal situation. They were drafted by the team. They were developed on the team. They started for that team. They closed out the chapter of their career on that team. We don't see that a lot in today's modern sport. So it's refreshing and very, very awesome, frankly, when we get to see that happen. Similar to like what we'll see in the NBA with Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks. He spent his entire career there. He's going to retire a Maverick. And there's like a whole different level of respect for Dirk because he was that dude for 2 decades for that franchise, even at the tail end of his career when he is no longer that dude. When you look at Joe Thomas, he can at least say he went out while he was still that dude, even with that torn tricep ending his career. My hope is that maybe he takes some time off and he decides to come back because he could still play, and he could still play at a very high level. Even if he took a year off, he would still be able to do so. I would like to see Joe Thomas be able to come back and get to play in the playoffs and get the chance to play for a Super Bowl trophy, the chance to get a ring. I would love to see him get that. But if he never does come back and he goes on the rest of his life to go fly fishing and maybe do some television work, whatever, it's been a hell of a career for Joe Thomas. And we'll be tuning in about 5-6 years from now when he's inducted as a first ballot inductee into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as he deserves to be. I'm legitimately feeling sad for Browns fans because for so many years, this was the one reason you had to take this team seriously. It was like everything sucked but Joe Thomas. This is terrible. Our coaches suck. Our GM sucks. We miss picks. We do this. We do that. Joe Thomas. You at least had that one redeeming quality. You at least had that one thing that validated you, just even a little itsy-bitsy-teensy bit. And now it is gone. But perhaps now that it is gone, you will be looking forward to some maybe bigger and better days ahead in the future. Maybe, just maybe. But if not, that makes this announcement even more somber, and it is already sad. So Browns fans, I offer you a bit of an olive branch. I'm truly sorry that your legendary stud, first ballot Hall of Fame left tackle retired, because I enjoyed watching him as much as you did. I'm really sorry, because it sucks. Believe me, I know, I understand.